Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel. In this episode we're going to be talking about gender roles. Who's going to clean the house? Mm-hmm. All right. If you're not doing so already, please follow us on social media across all platforms at YDFL Podcast. You can also listen to us on your favorite podcast platforms including
Alexa.
Or if you want to watch all of the shenanigans and the facial expressions in our beautiful space, you can head on over to
YouTube. And we're also trying to grow our following, as we always mention. So if you're not following us or if you're not watching us on YouTube, go on down there and subscribe, listen, follow, share with 3 friends, comment.
It's the best place to go to join the conversation.
For sure.
Go to YouTube. Even if you listen, we understand, ladies, you're busy and you're listening while you're cleaning and doing carpool drop off and all the different things. But if you head on over to YouTube in the comment section, drop the comments because that's where the conversation is taking place. Those of you that are listening in 28 countries as we're filming this,
and counting.
Thank you so much for your support. All right, let's get into it. Gender roles. Do you believe in gender roles, or are you like
I
not about it?
definitely am super duper old school, so I do think that there should be gender roles. I mean, I can't expect my significant other to. Granted, I don't want to have kids, but I'm saying I'm not expecting him to have a kid. I have the child. I take care of the kids. I take care of the household. And it has to be a balancing act, yes. I wash the dishes, you put them away. He washes the dishes, I put them away. It should be kind of half and half, but I do believe that the man is the man and he's the protector and provider, and that's the way it should be.
So I think that in terms of the gender roles, a lot of people are like, well, women do all the housekeeping. Men, you go out and, earn the bring home the bacon or whatever they say. Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. I don't know about the whole I do the dishes and you put them away, because I feel like that's now crossing into no gender roles. Like, I know that for me, I'm okay, like you said too, being the one who makes the house a home. Mm-hmm. I grow the humans.
What about like in the mornings? Like I make my bed every morning. Do you think that the man should grab the other side of the freaking sheets and help you make the bed really
So
fast?
I don't think that the word is he should do that. But I have seen on several occasions women that are like celebrity women and stuff like that, and they say that one of the things that helps their marriage is that we make the bed together in the morning, and it's the first thing that we accomplished together.
Makes sense.
And that it has actually helped people in their marriage, that one little task of like doing the bed together.
Right.
So I think if you're doing it for that purpose of like, hey, let's just do this little activity together because it kicks off the day as like a team.
Okay.
For like psychological reasons or whatever, I think it's great. But I think if you want the bed,
I get it. Like it's like you're going to. Yeah, but I understand sometimes.
Like I'm not gonna feel any kind of way if he just doesn't do it.
Because I feel like I would feel kind of some type of way.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely would. Or if for instance, maybe I have an earlier morning and he wants to stay in bed, but then he leaves the bed unmade, like because. I think that could drive me nuts. And so I don't know like how I know some people don't make their beds and they're cool with it and they'll go weeks without making their bed. Like my bed will not be made the day that I'm going to wash my sheets or I'm switching sheets, if that makes sense. I guess my bed's not made, but I think if I had a significant other and he didn't help me, or if he was the last one out of bed and he didn't make the bed, I could see like how that would like stir something.
So I'm of the school of thought that if something bothers you, that you are the one that needs to work on what that is. So if it bothers you that the bed's messed up, then you can go and fix the bed. I don't feel like if it's like, oh, okay, that bothers me, you need to fix that thing. Or for him, he might not even care about the way the pillows go. Because look at the end of the day, the man's gonna do the bed. You're not gonna like it anyways. You're still gonna be jumping on that sucker, like fixing all the pillows and organizing everything. He's not gonna do it the way you would do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
true story. So I had a housekeeper that would help me out, and I do have pillows, and I literally had her take a picture of how I want them.
So she had a schematic of like
where the colors go.
See what I mean?
And how everything is supposed to look.
So that man you are with, or whoever, or whatever, should not be touching the bed. Just let him sleep in.
No,
and when he wakes up,
but he should take a picture of the bed of like how it needs to be.
Okay, so to me, that is like literally a recipe for disaster. Like somewhere the guy's gonna fall short. He's just not Martha Stewart. Or maybe,
I get it. I understand that. I guess it's something that you have to have a conversation about. I do
or
feel
managing expectations. That
managing expectations. Yeah, I think so. Because I think that could be. It depends on the dynamic of the relationship, right? If both people are messy, like someone's got to get it together.
Somebody's got to hire.
Like
somebody's got to call somebody.
Do something about
somebody
something.
Better call
because
somebody.
You guys are going to be on that. What is that hoarder special?
Oh God.
So you got to make sure that you handle the things. And it's so funny because I can't tell you that I was like this ever, and I can't call myself OCD, but there are men that have OCD, by the way.
Oh, yes.
It's not just a woman thing. It could be a man thing,
I
too.
remember seeing a thing about John Cena, who I love John Cena. Like, I love his personality. Like, I love everything about John Cena, but he has massive OCD. Like, massive, like, you can't touch that. You can't sit there. You can't put this here. Like, that is for this. Like, it's very, like a museum. And you're just supposed to walk through and, like, don't look to your left or right or don't make eye contact. It's, like, really weird. And listen.
So I don't think, I know I don't have OCD. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But I do know that if there is something that needs to be, like, a picture frame that kind of tilts this way, like, if I walk by it, I will know it's not tilted the way that I want it to be tilted, and I will go and fix it. And I always tell the girls, I need you to pretend like no one lives here. Like, I want to walk into the house and I want to, like, pretend no one lives here. Like, everything needs to be in a certain way. Sometimes I fall short, like, in certain things. Like, you know, we talked about laundry. Like, you know, that's another thing. Like, gender roles. Like, should you have your husband wash his own clothes, or should you be the one washing their clothes? Because sometimes, depending on the jobs, on the career that the man has, it could be just mostly dry cleaning, or it could be half and half. Right. And so maybe you're doing your laundry, and then now you're putting a load in for him. Like, what are your thoughts regarding that?
Listen, if I'm married, I'm gonna do his laundry. Now it depends. You know, I also see the value bringing someone into the home to do it, and I also love the fluff and fold services. So at the end of the day, like, I accept as a gender role that this is part on my list, because here's how I view marriage, and maybe I'm completely, like, way off base. Maybe because I'm a business person, I don't know. I view, like, the husband's like the CEO, and then I view, like, my role as, like, the COO. You know what I mean? Like, well, he might be the chief financial, you know, but I'm like chief operation officer kind of. So, or it's like a vice president or whatever. Like, I view it as, like, these operational tasks are on his list to make to make our world go round, and then these are on my list to make the world go round. How they get done is none of my business of his or his business of mine. Meaning, if he says, Rachel, well, you're in charge of the house, and it's not his business if I want to have some of the funds go to pay a lady to come clean the house, or to come make some of the meals, or whatever, or a nanny to come help me with the babies. Okay.
Yeah.
So just like we have cars.
So how would you go around that if you guys are, like, really scheming by, and you're, like, working 12 hours a day? Like, at that point, I think you would have to. If you guys don't have
money, then you have to accept you married someone that doesn't have money. You're in a socioeconomic situation. Maybe you don't have an education, whatever it is. You don't have opportunity. Then your situation is what it is. You have to get your time management in place so that you can get your tasks done.
Do you feel that then, like, let's just say that you're working 12 hours a day. He's also working out. Yeah. Working outside of the home, I should say. Do you feel that he then should, like, help out with the laundry, kind of? Because, I mean, you guys are both contributing to the pot equally, versus him just being, like, this CEO that can get you, like, the housekeeper that can do the laundry, maybe can do a cooking of the meal.
So I'm definitely a good person to ask this, because I did marry someone that didn't have money, you know, and I was in that situation where he did okay for himself over time, but I will tell you, like, I was that one working 12 hours a day and still having to come home and cook and make sure the house was clean, and that I read to my kids and I helped with homework, and then I was doing
And how did you feel regarding your appreciation? Did you feel appreciated?
While he was on the couch, by the way. So I realized my personality was
somehow the freaking springs on the couch were going to come up, like, somehow.
So let me tell you, listen, and I know this isn't everybody, I took immense pride and joy into taking care of my kids.
Right.
And I took immense pride and joy into, like, the meals I was making and how I looked.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm getting at is my my expectation wasn't like I didn't have a resentful thing. This
is part of what you had to do.
I'm married with children,
right.
and I'm in this demanding career. I could have been working at Target,
right? Of course.
But I could have been a Starbucks barista, but I chose this like high level demanding career because I wanted the money if I was going to leave my house. Like let's face it.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I just took it as I'm just going to do the things. But he also never wanted me to hire anybody to come into the home, that's the part that I would have changed. That's the part I would have changed.
So I had a cleaning crew, a lady that would come into my house, and then I had a girlfriend of mine that was like, oh my gosh, I need her because she was really great, and her husband did not want her to hire anyone. You know why? Because he's old school Mexican, like machista, and you know what he would do? Because his mom never hired anybody, but the mom was a stay-at-home mom. This girlfriend of mine actually had a job. She had to sneak the cleaning crew into the house and sneak them out. And then all of a sudden, she's like, you guys got to leave. He's on his way. Yeah. And then my cleaning lady would call me and be like, what's up with your friend? And I'm like, why, what's up? She's like, well, I mean, we're ready to go and we're halfway through and all of a sudden we have to get the mop and the broom and like run out of the house and like not finish the job. And so he was such a freaking a-hole about getting her help that she had to sneak the cleaning crew in the house.
It's like the movie The Help. That's how the movie The Help is. Really? And you know what's so interesting? And I'm just going to... But what's so interesting is that we've even met guys here in the building.
Oh yeah.
That one of them, because they know that we do the show here and everything, and one of them said, I have a question. I'm kind of hitting a wall with my wife, and he tells me that they were married 15 years, they have a teenage kid, whatever, and that the neighbor across the street, the neighbor lady, because the wife's at home. Wife. Was like she has her cleaning.
White, by the way, because you make sure I remember the story. Yep. He said she's a white lady.
She's a white lady, and she has cleaning people that come in and people that help her and nannies, whatever. Okay, so he goes, I give my wife such a great life. I just don't know why she doesn't want to do this anymore. And so the wife was getting resentful because she wants a cleaning person and she's tired of doing the fluffing and the folding and the this and that. And he was taking offense to it. He was very like, I go to work every day and I do so much, to provide a good life. And I said, okay, if you had a job for 15 years where you didn't get like gold stars, promotion, bonuses, you didn't get nothing. It's just this is your job for 15 years. Would you be motivated to just keep doing it? I mean, after 15 years, at some point you're going to go, I think I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. Like, I think I've proven myself. Can I get an assistant? Totally tapped out. Yeah, can I just get an assistant to do these little, like, to do these things? And because in the real world, I don't care to do. In the corporate world, that's how it would be, right? Right, of course. And so I put it to him that way, and he was like, huh. Never thought about it. But he was actually, he was like offended by it.
Oh. I really do believe that it has something to do with like, depending on their upbringing. Like if you saw mom was super mom just took care of everything and she went to work and she did the meals and came home and did the this and the that and the that, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, whoever I marry needs to be like my mother. Like my mom never got help. I personally will tell you that no matter where I've been in my life, I've always had someone that comes in once a month, and because I like things to look very like, I keep them tidy, but I want to walk in and everything to be like 100% clean. Like that means they spend
like 8-9 hours. Like you can have a guest show up at any time, any day, and it just
looks good. Yeah, and then I usually like everything to be with mirrors and glass, so I want everything to always be really clean. So I get it. Like sometimes that's going to be a little bit difficult. And I do think that if you have the means to do it once a month, once a week,
I like
that
idea because like the toilets but I will say now you just kind of reminded me of this video that I saw. So there was a gentleman and he is an entrepreneur and he's made some success for himself. I think he manages athletes or something, and he was saying that thing. He goes, what is it about the black and brown community of men that no matter how much money they make, they want their wives to be like doing all these things like our mothers and grandmothers used to do. And he said, when really if you look on the other side of the fence, meaning the white men, and this is true by the way because I've worked around a lot of these white men. He said the white men, that would be embarrassing to them. So to the white men, it was like, no, like I am a successful man in my own right, and I want my wife to have help to come in and manage the house. And that's a sign of success on the man's part. Even if he's not making $1 million, maybe he's a 6-figure earner or whatever, but he says, hey, we're going to take $250 a month,
Makes
or
sense.
however much a month,
Yeah.
and we have people coming in once
And
a
everyone
month.
kind of helps out with
And
that.
everybody helps out with that. So for
Yeah.
one group of people, you know, the ethnic people, it almost seems to be like a disgrace for the woman to do that, and yet for the other ones, it's almost like no, I don't want her messing up her nails and
getting
doing all
stuff
that.
done. I think it's nice to have both, right? And I do think that it's nice if you do like to cook. I think anything that you do, if you do it with passion, if you do it like you want to get in there, you want to do it. I don't care what it is that you're doing. If you're crafting, if you're cooking, if you like it, you can see it. If you hate it, you can see it.
Yeah.
So I think if you can just really get into a state of gratitude and a state of like, you know what, I'm going to give my all to make this macaroni and cheese casserole, and it may be the only dish you know how to make, or you maybe are like this, you know, maybe a chef. But I think when you put passion into anything that you do, people will see it, you will see it, you will be proud of what you're doing. I think there's nothing worse than having a job that's 15 years in the making and no one ever says thank you. Thank you for doing my laundry. Thank you for washing the clothes. Thank you for, you know, sweeping, mopping. I think there's nothing worse than that. And I think that everybody wants to feel like I exist and I matter.
So ladies, I'm going to give you a little tool, and I think we might have mentioned this like last year or something, but one of the little things that really helped me out in my situation, as I mentioned, I also was kind of stuck in that rut of him being very against, you know, help, and also me having to work a lot of hours and balance the whole superwoman situation out, which I don't recommend necessarily, is that when we would get into these little tiffs about this, because well, you're the woman, you know, you have to do and I'm the man, I'm okay, cool. I'm working, he's working, so technically speaking, we're like this there. There's no one better than anybody there, okay? We're both tired. But when you look at the like if he's handling things that are outside the home, like maybe our fathers and grandfathers used to do, our husbands are not going out there fixing the car.
Some of them do.
But you're just
Some
not. But you know, they might. But like, they're just not. Like, I mean,
I know a lot of guys that don't.
Yeah, you just can't. The cars are built where you just can't even work on them unless you go to the dealer or the mechanic. So that those days are kind of over. So it's not like he's out there changing the oil in the driveway. Like that's probably not happening. Okay.
Right, it's true.
He's probably not out there changing the tires himself or spark plugs or whatever. He's just not doing it. Okay. Number one. Number two, is he mowing the lawn, or do you have a lawn service? Okay, so these are the things that are happening, like the trash is getting picked up by whoever. He's not having to take it wherever. So when you think about the things that are outside the home that are sort of the guy's things to do, chances are you guys have services for that.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
So if you have a lawn service and you have a mechanic or you have whatever, like why can't you have, you know what I mean, for him to not have that on his plate as a man.
So he can't, or he doesn't want to do it.
You know what I mean? So, and by the way, you don't necessarily want your man out there going, oh God, I gotta change the oil on all the cars. Like, babe, you can just take it for 30 minutes to wherever. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, just put that into perspective for him.
So this is
if
for
he gives you pushback.
So I like that you're sharing that, and this is literally for the couples that are maybe married or living together, right? So because then now you're sharing a home.
Yes.
So what about, because we're talking gender roles, what about if you're dating someone, right? Because we're taking it to like the people that are single. What about if you're dating someone and then all of a sudden, you know, the guy's trying to move into your place? Because that's gender roles, you know, we're talking about, do they matter, right? Like now the guy is like, because usually it's the girls that are like, when are we going to move together?
Oh,
and when are we going to, because nowadays it's not like it used to be where like, when is he going to propose? And, you know, is he going to ask for my hand in marriage to my parents? A lot of the time people aren't really doing that. So how do you feel about switching to the gender roles and then now the guy's like, hey, I couldn't help to notice you have an extra bedroom.
Yeah,
or like, you have a house, like, you know, they want to move into your house. Like, what are your thoughts about like when you hear stories where the girl moves a dude in? Because I know we've heard the stories.
We know
before.
a few people that have done this.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So I personally just can't imagine it. Like I just personally
do you
can't.
think that you would lose respect? How would What
It's
would that
too
be for you?
difficult
Like,
because as a woman, listen, like we nest all the time and we do all these things and we have our pretty little whatevers and whatever. And so I just, when you're talking, I'm like imagining some like rusty old, like leather worn, smelly recliner. And he's like, babe, this is my chair, my lucky chair
oh no.
for
Please
Sunday,
don't.
for
Stop
Monday,
with
for
the
Monday night football
descriptions.
or
Oh,
whatever,
Lord.
right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so I think that makes it difficult.
Difficult.
Whereas if you, for first and foremost, I'm traditional enough where I wouldn't even just move in with the guy unless we were getting married, unless we were married. That's number one.
So,
But if we were
what if you're gonna get married? Okay, because now I'm playing.
we're
devil's advocate.
engaged.
Now you're engaged.
We better go looking for a place.
Is that okay? That was
A
literally going to be my
neutral
next
ground.
question.
It has to be neutral
like,
ground.
It has to.
Even if I keep my house and my son moves in, or I rent it out, or whatever it is,
that you
or
do.
sell it, or whatever we do with his house and my house, it's cool. Neutral ground.
So then you would have to have him find another place.
Not just him, like
Or like
we
you,
are engaged,
like have
right?
him help
So
you,
we're
help
like
you, each
looking
other.
together for a place.
together.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Neutral ground.
Yeah, because I've seen I always feel that when I've seen that the woman moves a man in, I always think, oh man, that is like it's just probably not gonna work unless they know that they have a game plan. They're gonna move him in for like 6 months max, or maybe a year max, but there's a game plan to buy a house.
Well, exactly. But I do have a friend. I have someone I know. She watches the show, and she's a gorgeous, literally just stunning home. And he had his own home as well. They ended up getting married. He moved into her house. It wasn't his initial reaction. It wasn't like, oh, one day I'm gonna live here or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they opted for that because she just loves her home. And at the end of the day, like where he lived was actually a more expensive area, and so it would have cost a lot more money, I'm sure, to be able to then maintain what the lifestyle that she had. And so what I'm getting at is that he entered the home, and from what I hear and see and observe and everything, and what it seems to be, he's very alpha. And so he went in and identified all these ways to be able to improve the home, the landscaping, the this, the that. Like, it's so nice. Like, and it's all, of course, like with her, like, okay, so babe, would you like this or that or whatever? But it's obvious now that there's a man in the home. And so although she decorated it and it's pretty and it's still her home, like you see it, like it has all her touches. There's also now this next level to the home, which is really nice. So it's almost like he's added value to the home. Okay. And so that part, it makes it really difficult because I can see why she made the decision that she did, but I really asked myself would I have been able to do the same thing. I don't know. It's a tough one.
I think that's a tough one. I know that I've seen it before where people do move the people in. I would question the motives because I know that I've shared this before where, in my previous home, I had 2 closets, one for my shoes and my handbags, and then the other was just my closet. So 2 closets because I'm a single girl and that's just what it is. And I remember he was like, so where's my closet? And I'm like, well, you don't have a closet. It's a hers and a hers because it's my home. So for me, I just feel like there was no added value other than like, where's mine? And so I was like, I just can't. For me,
and as a single woman and a single mom, you gotta, that's first and foremost, like, okay, where am I planting roots and what do I have for my daughters? You know what I mean? If a guy, like we talked about this years ago, it's like, if a guy wants to come in and upgrade you out of your situation, like that's the most ideal situation is to be upgraded out. And it doesn't have to be, it could even be semi-lateral. It could be a similar house like yours, but I say go for the neutral ground. If you're single and you're entering a long-term situation and you want to move together or get married or whatever, I say go for neutral ground.
I kind of agree. Or maybe you guys want to plant seeds somewhere else, like a different city, then you could do that. I mean, for some people it works. I just think for me, I really, really question the ulterior motive because I was like, well, how I really questioned that gender role because I'm like, shouldn't I be wanting to move in with him and shouldn't I be asking for a closet? Like, why am I being asked for a closet? Like, it's so strange.
It's weird. Yeah.
And so but it was so weird because as I went down the path, and I've been down the path of being a divorcee and being a single girl, then I've noticed that, like, start dating someone, he looks like he has his ish together, like he has no issue providing, protecting, whatever, and then all of a sudden he's kind of like weaseling his way into one of the closets. And I'm like, is that just a new thing, or is that a me thing, right?
So I wonder
would
if
have
it's
an
like
issue with that.
it could be just the male territory thing. Like, I mean, if I had to guess and go, oh, okay, he's leaving, you know, his loafers in my walk-in closet. Like, is that like a dog marking his territory? Like, just in
kind
case,
of like girls
how
do
girls
that,
will
like they'll leave
their
like the earring
or like a panty or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
Like
Like
their yeah,
you know what I mean?
marking
So
territory.
yeah, like are they marking their territory? But I think as far as like I think the gender role side of it is like, I think if you're one of the Fab 15 men that are watching, I really, because I'm a career woman and all this kind of stuff, I'm really of the school of thought that I am what I am because I felt like I had to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that by nature, women want someone that is reliable and who can provide for them and make them feel safe,
of course,
and protected. And I think if we all had that option, I think most of us would be at home,
for sure,
worried about managing the home, our hair, ourselves,
things,
and
yes.
like cookies in the oven. And like, I think that, like, honestly, I've spoken to a lot of even high level women who are like, well, I'm doing all this, and thank God I'm doing it because I haven't met anybody that I can actually trust or rely on to
do the things,
to not leave me high and dry. You know what I mean? And so,
well, I mean, did you see, I know we talked about it on like maybe 5-6 episodes ago about how Bloomberg came up with that new study that the women,
the she-economy one.
Yeah, the women, 25 to 44 years of age here coming up, they're not going to get married, and they probably are not going to have children. Now I know this is kind of veering off the subject, but it's kind of crazy because here's what it is. If you know that you have to step into both roles, and you're just going to handle those things, right? Yes. So I just recently heard of a story through someone that I know. Her friend is probably about 31 years old. She realized that she's probably not going to find the man. And so she realized that she wanted to have a kid. And she's obviously a well-studied, successful woman with a great career. So she went and did IVF. In vitro, there is no father, obviously. She went ahead and just got the procedure done. She's about 6 months pregnant, and she understands that she's having a child on her own because no one's going to be stepping up to the plate. So when you talk about gender, identifying gender roles, you have someone here, like say for instance this young girl that's 31 years old, she just basically gave up and said, I know for sure I want to be a mom, and if a guy's in the picture, then great, but if he's not, I don't care. I'm still going to do what I want to do. And I think that's cool because she's going to get what she wants. But I think that the whole part and the idea is to have a husband and a wife, right? I know that, we come from broke. We are here because, we were married and divorced. But the idea was to stay married and have a family and a unity. It didn't work out that way.
If they held their part of the bargain, we'd still be in those those marriages.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But, it didn't work out that way. I always say that the cards that were dealt to us were a little different.
Yeah.
But she went ahead and just was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm taking the initiative. I'm having this baby. She's like 6 months pregnant, and she's doing it all alone. And she understood all of what she needed to do, and she's going to be mom and dad.
And we're in a society where it's going to be more acceptable now for the child to grow up and not know who their father is necessarily.
Like,
you know what I mean?
It's like my mom picked him out of like a bunch of dudes.
You know what I mean?
Went through the list of all the guys.
Catalog baby. I think
that's kind of crazy.
I think that we're in a time where women. Look, I've had this thought for a while, and it's become very apparent to me that women have evolved beyond where men have evolved. And I think that men have sort of gone backwards or evolved into something weaker and not reliable and all these things, and women have evolved the other way.
Right.
And I think it's just evolution, and we are sitting in a time now that we have never seen probably in our entire history ever, where women are literally self-reliant. I mean, there's just so many things, financial, emotional. We have emotional intelligence. We're learning to deal with our BS. Like, we're learning to see, like, we're just not seeing the value of men the way we saw. And unfortunately, many of us are looking for that sort of classic value, but the men are out here just on some other stuff. And so it's like,
but I can't really even just pin it on just the women and then not pin it on the men. But I really truly believe that So I've met a lot of guys that haven't never been married or never had kids or anything like that. I think that a lot of the time, I think they understand that if they've never done it, is because they understand that it's a life-changing decision.
Yeah.
And so you could get a guy like, our old colleagues that obviously they thought this is what they wanted, but then once they were there, they realized that they just wanted to still play around. So I think that there's a level of respect that I would have for someone that's plus 50, plus 40, plus 30 that hasn't found that person because they understand that it's a serious move. It's not just like, well, I have nothing going on that Saturday, let's just go get married.
And that's one of the things, like with you and I, that we've unpacked off camera. It's like there are two different types of guys that are not married without kids. Like there's the player guy that maybe he's even low-key gay or whatever the situation is. He hasn't figured himself out.
Yeah.
And then there's the men that are like, no, that's how serious they take the marriage, that they're just not even going to do that. And then there's a third kind of guy, he just doesn't want to share his money.
Right.
He's just straight up. I'm not doing all this just to lose half my money.
Right.
So
but we did an episode on that at the end you die and then you lose it all anyway. So then it's like, mean? But I get it.
So I think at the end of the day, I think men have not evolved in the way or at the rate that women have evolved.
Yeah.
And I think because men have regressed a little bit, it's caused us to have to then pick up the pieces and evolve faster. And this is new territory for all of us. Like, we figured out how to make money and we're like, oh my God, like this is what you do a business and like this is what happens. Or, we get our education, like we get a good job or whatever it might be. We're understanding that we have this ability to earn money where even 30 years ago that wasn't so prevalent. And now it's very commonplace for a woman to figure out how to make her money. At the end of the day, if you're a guy watching this, fellas, I don't care how much money she makes, she probably is really hopeful that she'll meet a guy that can meet her where she's at or beyond and still give her the peace of mind that if she decided to quit today and kick up her heels and just relax, that you got her. And otherwise, you're going to have us on this rat wheel continuing on, and we're never going to be able to sit into like our feminine fully and all this stuff. Because listen, we talk about feminine and masculine, and at the end of the day, women, no matter how alpha a woman is, that just means she needs a man that's that much more alpha. Mm-hmm. In order for her to go, okay, and crack the code on her feminine, because let me tell you, that's the only way it's going to work.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be very common. Like the one story that I just shared with the girl, just doing her own thing and just saying, I'm going to have a child because that's what I want. I think that's going to happen a lot because a lot of the time I think that it's a respect thing, right? Like I think that you feel that if you should stay home, will he still value you? Is he going to still respect you?
I know.
Is he still going to love you?
Is he going to be faithful?
That that you have worth, or is he just going to be like, she's just a leash?
Think about the number of women before us, because we got here for a reason. Before us, women were doing those 20 years in the marriage, raising the kids, doing all the things for the husband. And the husband traded up for the younger model and left the wife with nothing. That's what's behind us. We are standing on the shoulders of all those women that they had to endure that with no education, no way to make money because they were at home. They were thinking, well, my husband's got it.
He's got it.
I don't got to worry. Like, I'm just doing whatever. And then he literally left her at 40, 50 years old.
It's kind of crazy because I don't want to, I don't really know the ins and outs of this particular story. But, like, for instance, Tony Robbins talks about that. He talks about how poor he was because his dad walked out on them. Yeah. And so that happened a lot more often than not. So guess what happens? Now the Tony Robbinsons of the world, that generation, which they're plus 50s or whatever age, 60s, now they are being, the women are telling the little girls, get your education, go to school,
make your money,
career, make your money. Don't ever rely on a man. Why? Because they saw this whole
we have a huge history
spiral of what's happened.
Huge history.
And I think that there's nothing wrong with having the ability to make money, obviously, but it's also really nice to know that you have a partner in place.
Yes.
And it's not like, well, that's your job. Well, that's your job. I mean, I think that we understand what our jobs are. Whether that is you don't know how to cook as a woman, the man knows how to cook. Okay, cool. He's going to cook because he knows how to cook, because that happens too. And you understand that you guys have an agreement, like, I'm going to do the dishes because I don't know how to cook. And if you're okay and that dynamic works, I mean, essentially, it's as old as times. Women are the ones that typically are in the kitchen. But if that's not the way that your dynamic is flowing, that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as both parties feel appreciated. I think that there's nothing when you know things are gonna not work out, is like the respect is gone,
I know.
and one person feels slighted or unappreciated. That's just the perfect combination of just crap.
Yeah.
And you know that things are just not going to work out when you have those three things. Like, I'm not appreciated, I'm undervalued, and then I'm being disrespected and overworked.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we have to really take into consideration all those things. And it's not that it's your job or my job. It's just understanding that it's our job, and somehow somebody's got to make it happen. Whether that's making the bed or whatever
not.
it is.
I always give the analogy that marriage and relationships or whatever, it's a basket, and the basket has two handles, and
Right.
you can put a lot of things in the basket. There might be a house in the basket, kids in the basket,
All the
parents,
things,
whatever
yes.
in the basket. But it's like, who are you going to trust to hold the other handle on that basket? Because if they're not worthy, you're going to be dragging that whole thing all by your darn self.
Break.
And the sad thing is, women are getting really creative and innovative on how to do that. So I think if you're
They're
a man,
finding something
they're
to step in there.
and then even though Musk is making the robots.
Yeah. Well, some of these ain't robots, but you know what I'm saying?
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week, and remember that you deserve fresh lettuce.